The piece of writing advice we are going to be talking about today is from Lisa Dordal, and it states that you should set aside a specific day for reading and writing instead of trying to write every single day. Welcome to How to Write Good. I am your host, Daniel Poppie. You can find out more about me at danielpoppie.com. If it is your first time here, How to Write Good is a writing podcast that seeks to find principles and advice that can be applied across a broad range of writing situations. If you've been here before, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button below, and share. I think developing a daily writing habit or having the activity of writing within your day, every single day, is important if you want to learn how to be a writer. And I don't think it's necessarily important because it's going to make you write more, but I think it's important because there seems to be no substitute for setting aside even a short amount of time, whether that's 5 or 15 minutes a day, as a new writer to develop the habit of writing. And you can write a book in 15-minute stints. It is actually possible. So if you only have 15 minutes to write and you put in those 15 minutes a day and you just write and you try to get through your book, you will get through your book eventually. But I think this is very important because it allows you to develop the brain pathways that allow you to jump into writing quicker and get into the creative habit. And like I said before, it doesn't matter if you're taking 15 minutes or 20 minutes or an hour or 2 hours a day. If you have 2 hours a day, you're very lucky. But it doesn't matter how short it is, it's whether or not you're doing it. If you're trying to develop any habit, you can actually work off this idea that you can do a small thing, and then your mind will get used to doing that small thing every single day, and then you can build that small thing up into something even greater. But I think that this advice that you should set aside a specific day for reading and writing instead of trying to write every single day is something you should consider. And not just for writing, I think this is actually something that applies to every single type of creative endeavor, or if you're just trying to get something done in your daily life. The only portion of this advice that I don't actually agree with is that you should get rid of that daily writing habit. I still think you should maintain that daily writing habit, but you could shorten it and then you could add the time that you're not using onto somewhere else. Like I said, if you plan to work on any project, I suggest trying to block it out. I suggest trying to chunk it out into bigger blocks when you're working on it because you're able to get focused on it better. And you're able to get into a mindset that is going to allow you to get more done. You're more efficient if you're blocking the time out, right? Rather than if you're taking small little increments. If you're doing work, we call this chunking. We call this, I think people do call it blocking. I'm kind of blanking on what the other word would be if there is another word. But people actually do this when they're doing work. So instead of doing a little bit of each type of work, they're taking all the same type of work and they're putting it all together. So like I said before, this isn't a piece of writing advice. This is actually a piece of advice to get things done, okay? So if you want to get something done and if you want to be more efficient, it is good to have bigger chunks of time to do that specific thing. I do this with a lot of things, right? I do write pretty much every single day, right? There are instances when I don't, but I do write more days than not during a month or during a week or whatever if you average it out. But at the same time, I think that the best writing I've done, and I think that the best I've felt about writing is when I've had time to sit down, when I've had time to get away, and when I've had time to actually work on it without interruptions, which might not be possible for somebody. So if you can't do that, then I do suggest just taking the small chunks of time throughout your day. There's also this idea that if you start to do a task, it takes some time to get focused on that specific task, right? It might take you 5 minutes. It might take you 10 minutes. It might take you 15 minutes. So it actually takes some time to shift your attention from one thing to another so that you can actually focus on that new thing in a way that is going to be beneficial or it's going to be efficient or you're actually getting good work done. So if it takes you 5 minutes to shift from what you were doing before to your 15-minute writing block every single day, if you took your writing block and you stuffed it at the end of the week, let me think, you'd have like 3.5 hours or something like that. You'd have 3.5 hours of writing, I believe, if I'm doing the math correctly. And it would take you 5 minutes to get going during those 3.5 hours. So you have 5 minutes of wasted time when you chunk your work together, as opposed to your 35 minutes where you would lose that time during the week. So you save yourself 30 minutes where you're actually working on something and you're focused on that thing. Now, it might be the case that you need to get focused 2 or 3 times as you're working on something that you chunk together, but it's much smaller than 7 times throughout the week. So I think that Lisa Dordal is hitting on something that is effective, not just for writing, but for anything you want to work on. And I think that if you have the ability to, if you have the ability to set aside time at some point during the week, if you have the time to set aside a whole entire day, that'd be phenomenal. But I know that not everybody can do that. I know that it is a huge stretch, especially if you have kids or if you have a lot of different other things you need to get done. But one thing I would caution you with is not to get rid of that daily habit, because it might be the case that you set aside a Saturday and you want to work on your book, or you want to work on whatever you're writing or you're planning on a Saturday, and something throws your Saturday off. Well, that whole entire day was thrown off, right? And it might have screwed up everything when you were writing, and you might be in a bad mood, whatever. It might just be a bad day. Something bad might have happened. And you lose all that time at once, as opposed to putting in the time every single day. You might have a bad day here and there, but you're going to hit times when you just get into the flow of writing because you're doing it every single day. Not every day is the same. You're going to be able to tap into different emotions and different ideas on different days based on what you're reading, what you're doing, etc. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want to support me, there's really one simple thing you can do. You can go to danielpoppie.com/newsletter and sign up for my newsletter. And when you sign up, you'll actually be able to get access to my publication roadmap. So that's everything I have planned for pretty much every project I have into the next decade. Again, that is danielpoppie.com/newsletter. You can also find the link below.